Hopefully we've got our technology glitches done for the night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Property Review Commission on August 25th it's now 6:21 p.m. So Pam, if you would please go ahead and call the roll.
Yeah. Mr. Costi.
Here.
Mr. Burke.
Here.
Mr. Ogred.
Here.
Chairwoman Brinegar.
Here. Can we get a motion to excuse Ms. Schroeder? She had to
So
work
moved.
tonight.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion was made by Mr. Costi to excuse Ms. Schroeder from tonight's BZA and PRC meeting, and that was seconded by Mr. Ogred. Mr. Costi.
Yes.
Mr. Ogred.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
And Chair Brinegar.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is just to approve the prior minutes from our last meeting on July 21st. I know I sent Pam just two very minor corrections. I don't know if anybody else had any corrections or changes.
Yeah,
I sent one.
Yeah.
And you got it.
Phil found the same one one of the ones you had found, so that worked out perfectly. I got it taken care of.
Okay. I always tell Pam, sorry, I'm kind of a detail person, but hey.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got those changes, and with nothing else, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second.
And so a motion was made by Mr. Ogred to approve the minutes from the July 21st, 2020 meeting, and that was seconded by Mr. Burke. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are going to be wearing our Board of Zoning Appeals hat tonight. We are going to have a second hearing, or sort of a continuation of the variance case BA 20-05. This is the property located at 1754 North Bellevue Drive regarding an accessory structure variance. We will do the same order we normally do. We'll start out with the staff summary, which Jessica will provide for us. We will give time for the property owner to give input. Then we will allow public input, and I believe we'll probably be limiting the time. Are we going to do 3 minutes, Pam? Is that right? Per person. And then we will close the public input portion, the hearing part, and then the board will have time to discuss and to hopefully make a decision tonight. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Jessica, for our staff summary.
Okay. So some of this is going to be reiterated from last time. So the applicant's name is James and Rita Claypool. The applicant's address is 1754 North Bellevue Drive. The property is located on North Bellevue Drive at the intersection of North Bellevue and Barrel Drive in the city of Bellbrook. The property is currently zoned R1A, one family residential. According to the intent of this district, these districts are the most restrictive of the residential districts. The purpose and intent is to provide for an environment of predominantly low density single unit dwellings, plus certain other facilities which serve the residents living in the district and to regulate transient occupancy within the city, and to protect and preserve the permanency of residential neighborhoods, protect property values, and ensure the comfort and safety of the residents. It should also be noted that accessory uses that are allowed in this district are private garages for the storage of vehicles and residents and employees, according to Article 5, Section 503. The property does have a 35-foot utility easement along the center of the property, including a 10-foot utility easement directly above it that runs along into the adjacent subdivision, and a 5-foot utility easement along the rear of the property. the Board of Zoning Appeals should decide whether or not to grant this variance from section 1805A. With that being said, rules are there for a reason. Until 1992, there was no limit on the size of the accessory structures. This was limited in 1992 to prevent these oversized garages because they were becoming a problem. The 600 square foot size limit was set to prevent anyone from operating a business out of a garage. And while Mr. Claypool may not, who is to say in the future when the property inevitably changes hands that this will not happen? In zoning and planning, one must always be prepared for what could happen in the future as a potential use. Later in 2000, one of the planners asked the planning board to have the zoning code changed to up the size limit due to variance requests such as this, and that was subsequently denied. At what point do we not grant a variance for oversized accessory structures? If anyone can work with the board to get a variance, at what point does this render the code insignificant? The neighbors have expressed fears of decreased property values. DP&L and Spectrum have both stated that they would rather the owner not place anything in the easement area, and we have received 37 signatures against the garage being over the allowed size per the zoning code, as well as 8 new letters. It should be noted though that 4 of the signatures are also from those letters. So all against the variance. This is in addition to the original 12, albeit some of these are reiterated responses from the residents because the case was tabled. The zoning ordinance even states that one of its purposes is to conserve property values in Article 2. Furthermore, the zoning code states that when referencing procedures for variances, no non-conforming use of neighboring land, structures, or buildings in the same districts and no permitted uses of land, structures, or buildings in these districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance. The variance requested shall not alter the essential character of the locality, section 20.13. As such, the board should focus less on a precedent that may have been set in the past. Staff strongly orders the board to deny the variance request for the garage at its present size and only allow the Claypools to build one to code as requested by an overwhelming majority of their neighbors. I also, so we had numerous letters sent to us. I don't know if the board wants me to read a couple of those or.
I just have one quick clarification, and maybe I had misheard, but it sounded like it says draft strongly orders the board. I think it says urges the board, right?
Yeah, it said urges, not orders. I can't order you to do anything.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. Okay. Before we get into that, I wonder if it's helpful to, I didn't know if you were planning to provide a summary of what they are requesting, because it is a little bit different than the last time.
I had sent you, the Claypools had sent out a sort of like packet, and you should have received that. And in the staff report, there is an updated map of what their proposed garage location is. So it's, I believe it's 1,142 square feet this time, with just outside of the easement area with a concrete pad and such in the easement area. And we're not necessarily making a decision, or not we, but you're not necessarily making a decision today with anything to do with the easement area. The only thing the board is making the decision on is the variance. So that would be the gravel or the concrete, all that stuff would be taken up with myself later on. So that's something I would have to work with them to achieve, like if we needed a different drive somewhere or whatever. So.
So just to clarify, are we still, is it just the 600 square foot size limit, or did some other variance come out of this as well with the new design?
It's just a 600 square
Just
foot
the size.
Okay.
Okay, so is that, and I think we do have the pictures with all the details. I just thought it would be helpful to get the size. The 1152 is the new
Yeah.
proposed size because it was a little bit larger last time. And then the issue is that it's 600 is what is the code.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments you wanted to share at this point, Jessica?
Really just, I hope that all of you have taken a look at each and every one of these letters that have been sent out. There was one by, I'm going to butcher his last name. I think it's Dry Scarf. He has some very good points in his letters. There was one by Steve Lutz that he sent out. You know, we had received so many, it can be a bit overwhelming at times. So, you know, just if you have reviewed those, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for passing all of those along. Okay. All right, well, let me go back to my list here. I think we've got the staff summary and have an overview, and some of this was a little bit condensed, but we had discussed more of the details last meeting. So at this point, why don't we go ahead and give the property owners a chance to speak. As before, we will have our clerk of courts, Pam, swear you in.
Well, all I can say is,
Wait, hold on 1 second, Jim.
okay,
Yeah, will you guys raise your right hands, please?
Moving in.
All right, do you swear that the evidence you shall give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, now go.
My whole thing concerned about this is you've all expressed that you've never seen such overwhelming opposition. If the system was allowed to work like in the past, where they weren't solicited, somebody didn't come to their house, somebody didn't instill speculation and things like that to them, you would have never got that many things. There's a petition that was passed around. There was stops at people's houses. You're not going to live in a community and go against somebody that's been here 25 years, knows a lot of people, goes to a lot of places, asks people, tells people something that's going to happen there, and you can get people all over town. We're not going to beat that. Some of you might be friends with the Lutzes, you might know them. I don't know. I'm just going to say that, we're not going to do it. I mean, I read through the letters too, and one of the people that's on the list happened to know she's a therapist, and they started chatting at work, and she identified that this person came to their door, told them they were going to be a business, told them going to be a lot more noise, a lot more traffic. We can't compete with that. So, you go down through the things that these real estate people have said, it's too detailed for just to be telling us what the community's like. So we're not going to get there, so, you approved a 1,200 square foot in May. We talked to John Lucas about it. His drawing wasn't detailed as ours. We're getting thrown under the bus for not showing the shrubs and stuff in the yard and the trees. So, we're not going to beat it. The people over, the guy on Barnett Drive, 1,200 square foot, his yard is 3.5 times smaller than ours. The building space with both his buildings on there, he's using 25% of the lot for the two buildings. The next door neighbor here, he's using 13% of his lot size for two buildings. If we've got the 24 by 48 that we talked about, we would be at 5% of the green space used in the yard. So we got 95% green space here, and it's not going to look out of place when you have something like that. But like I say, you're not going to compete with people that's here, has a lot of friends, it's just not going to happen. So, you can, if any of you, I don't know what you do at work, but I work for a place for 35 years. We use data all the time to make decisions on. When we seen something that was significant and changed in the process, you knew there was a special cause, and we know what the special cause is. So, I mean, you're not going to do anything about it. We can't do anything about it. So we're up to you to make your decisions based on what you think are actual facts and stuff. Somebody didn't trust the system to work like it should, where the homeowners could send something in if they had a problem. So you're not going to get the same results that you've got in the past all the time you've approved them. You know, I think if you want to stick to 600 square foot, say that. I think that anybody that puts in a request for a variance, use this data, whether it's created or not. I mean, you've heard from all these people, 30 something or whatever, whether it was true or not, what was going on, they're saying, do the code, do the code, do the code. So if we're going to be the last one, that's fine. But, make your decision based on the history of what you've done in the past. That's all I got to say. I mean, we can go tick for tack on this thing. And, this person said that, this happened. We were kind of upset and mad at first until the therapist was working on one of my friends, and they started talking about where they lived. He told them that I was trying to get a garage built, and she goes, "Oh no, a guy came to our house, told us this stuff, she asked, what do you want us to do? And he said, just say no, objected." So then when she found out that she had been told the story, she was pretty upset, but it's past that now. So just use your best judgment. He's been here 25 years. If that's going to be the crowning achievement for the Lutzes in Bellbrook, then let it be that crowning achievement. So just vote with how you feel is right. When Jessica had the person out here for the soil and water to look at it, he couldn't believe this was even going on. He said, "You got to be kidding." And that was just the objections. And then when you told him about the petition, he goes, "You got to be kidding." Everybody says that. So just go ahead and vote. There's no sense beating this thing around any longer. It's been frustrating to think about people making stuff up about you and speculating things. We've lived here 5 years. We've lived here 5 years and had stuff stored at another place. Have you seen or heard of any complaints in the city about this? No. My fault about parking the skid steer in the yard was I've seen a trailer behind a garage next door in the dirt for years. So I'm thinking it's okay, but then now I find out that, if it screens by some way, it's okay. We're getting people saying, going to bring crime in the area. It's like, because we have construction equipment. Go around any construction site, what do you see? You see commercial vehicles, trucks, vans, things like that. If there was going to be crime in here, they would be looking for those kind of vehicles with all kinds of tools in them, all kinds of electronic gauges, computers, and there's tons of materials stored outside around this building. I guess when in the city ordinance, it talks about screening. So I guess that the spruce trees in our yard provide some of the screening from the people from the street. Doesn't provide anything for us. We see the side of a garage with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of unistrut, commercial conduit for buildings, stacks of ladders outside, some more commercial stuff in the backyard. I will fix what we're considering covering, as far as that goes. I'll get the trees down where that stuff can be seen from the road, and maybe it'll get cleaned up. But that's the only way that's going to happen. So just, it's been frustrating for a month, or 5 weeks now. So every day thinking about it, we really need the space. Grandparents wanted us to live here. We're not moving. So we'll find a way around all this stuff. We'll find, if I have to get a trailer like the guy on Weller, to store the cars in and stuff in. Myself, I'd rather look at a garage than a trailer sitting in the yard. We've had enclosed trailers in the past, and I got rid of them because I didn't like looking at them, but it's not going to be up to me now. So, I mean, okay, I'm sorry about that rant, but just go ahead and vote. Vote. You don't need to hear from anybody else. It's not going to make much difference. So just go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, well, why don't we go ahead at this point? We can allow for public input. It looks like we do have some people interested in speak. They will be audio only. So, and Pam, I'll kind of defer to you to kind of let them in what order, and also they will probably need sworn in as well.
Okay, so the first person that put their little hand up, so is Mr., and I know I'm gonna say your last name wrong, Dreisharf? Can you unmute your first? Yeah. And I need to ask you, number one, how you pronounce your name.
Yeah. Hey there, it's Dreisharf.
Dreisharf. All right. So I can't see you, but I'm gonna ask you to raise your right hand and I'm gonna swear you in. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And if you'll start by stating your name and your address.
Derek Dreisharf, 1692 Sugar Run Trail.
All right, and you do have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for, I guess, this overall forum. I think it's a great forum to ensure that, you know, all residents are really being constructive to debate what is best for Bellbrook. So thanks for everybody on all sides of the coin here. I guess, first of all, what I would say is Bellbrook is great, mostly because of great neighbors. And so I think that all the surrounding neighbors in this area are, you know, I have no ill harm towards anybody. This is really just purely about a garage and what came across in the first letter of, as being really just a huge garage. I mean, it was kind of, and for the proposed location at that time, it felt forced. It felt, you know, 1380 was, and I see that it's been amended, but that it was just huge. And I think people became hypersensitive to the idea of that, especially out in the open where it wasn't like some of the other addresses. For example, the one that sits back behind Stephen Bell, where, you know, not many people see it. It's tucked in right behind the house. So this one would have been more in the open. And so it just brought up a lot of questions, really not even about this particular address. And I've never really met the Claypools, although I knew the former residents there who I believe were related. So anyway, the practice of building such large structures, really not even for this resident, but for many others, just looks unbalanced, and it's just not a precedent that should continue. So it really brought up, you know, why are we even doing this, and is that best for the community to have kind of an eyesore? And so it brought up, well, where did that requirement even come from? Why is it there? And so that leads you down the path of, well, it was probably to eliminate the opinion and balance and eyesore type discussions. And it's just a precedent that is going to proliferate throughout the community. Everybody will continue to build large structures. So there's a lot of things that I outlined that are really just about the garage and not really, you know, I'm not getting in the middle of any type of individual conflicts or anything, but it just focused, and anybody's welcome to read it. You know, that's fine, but it focused just on the size and the overall practice of deviating from codes. And so, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm an engineer, so I'm really kind of into requirements. So I'll ask for apologies there, okay? But then the nature of the building being forced and where it was kind of previously placed, and even now it's kind of like way out in the open. It looks better being smaller, but and then the reason for the requirement was the fourth item. And really, does this type of a thing have an impact on surrounding property owners in terms of indirect or direct impacts due to, you know, whether it's an eyesore or buyers that come in and look at and they see a big giant garage. So those were the biggest things. And with the previous location, I think it was stated as drainage concerns. I think for the newest location, that probably wouldn't be the case because it's on the side of the hill. But anybody's willing, you know, welcome to read that. But that's all I have, and I just really do appreciate all of the folks in Bellbrook, and thanks for your time.
Okay, Pam, should we go to the next person?
Yeah, so did any of the other attendees like to speak now? There's 2 more people attending.
Looks like Mr. Lutz.
Oh, Mr. Lutz, okay. Here we go.
Hello?
There you go. Okay. Mr. Lutz, if you could raise your right hand and I will swear you in. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give the board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right. And if you can start by stating your name and address.
Steve Lutz, 1764 North Bellevue.
And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, well, as you know, basically, I'd like to encourage the board to follow the codes. And it's not just for this particular one, it's for anything. I know that there is actually the realtor told me of the house next door on the other side of the creek that's for sale, that they want to build a large building also down there. So what kind of precedents are we going to set if the codes were put in place and we're just going to not follow them on anything? Have no problem with somebody wanting to build a garage, especially placement, location, aesthetics, that kind of thing. And I believe that we should just follow the code on size. As far as a driveway, I know that his last thing, the one of the gravel driveway, well, the code states concrete, asphalt, or brick, and a dust-free surface. So extend the existing driveway in concrete, make it match with directional boring and everything. There's no problem for utilities getting underneath of it in the future. And the best thing to do is actually place a couple spare ducts under that. Extend it 5 foot beyond each side, capped and encased in sand. So if AT&T or DP&L or anybody needs to get underneath there in the future, they've got 2 raceways already there. So it's money well spent. Worst case, they'd have to saw it up in an expansion joint. So I think that's one way to go to help keep the aesthetics of the drive. The location seems like it would work over there. But again, if you stick to the code for everything, now and in the future, that's the best way. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I don't know if anybody else does. Oh, the remaining time he has.
Okay, well, you've read our letters, so you know how we feel with placement on the lot, that kind of thing. I also did request, there is where the drain pipe runs from White's down through North Bellevue down here. There's an easement out front that was put in about 20 years ago. I did request the information on that, especially the paperwork that we signed at that time. So I have that for anything coming up here in the future. So I'd like to make sure that that gets documented. And that's about all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lutz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So do we think all the people who are interested in speaking tonight for the public input portion? Okay.
We have one more.
I can't hear Pam, but it sounds like Aaron thinks there's one more.
Somebody just raised their hand.
Yeah, I have another person. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
And if you could unmute yourself, Karen. No, there we go. Yeah, so can I get your first and last name?
Karen Duffy.
And your last name again?
Duffy.
Duffy, thank you. If you will raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear, do you swear that the evidence you shall give the board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
All right, and if you could start by stating your name and address, and then you'll get 3 minutes.
My name is Karen Duffy. I'm at 1705 Sugar Run Trail. And I've been in real estate, sold real estate in Dayton for 32 years. My concern with this proposal for a variance is just the size that's significantly out of the current zoning regulations of 600 square feet. The 1,300 or even 1,100, that's about the size of some of these houses on Whites and Weller and off Bellevue. That's not a multifamily zoned parcel. And I've sold real estate all over. And if you go to areas, for instance, Fairborn or other areas that have more lax regulations and zoning, you'll see the impact of having these people wanting to do different things that don't comply. You see the impact not just in aesthetics, how it looks, but just how the whole community is designed and functions. If you compare Centerville versus Fairborn, you get totally two different ideals or pictures in your mind, at least I do. And I just feel like 600 square feet, if you want a second car garage, an additional garage, that's completely reasonable. But when you get into the 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 square foot structures, what is the purpose? I don't understand the purpose of the structure. If it's for storing a couple more cars, that's fine. But what Jessica had mentioned initially is a concern of mine, that if this is allowed and if the Claypools use it for storage or whatever, and it's not a commercial business and it's completely complies other than the size, that isn't a problem now. But in the future, that creates an issue. Who's going to police that structure in the future? City of Bellbrook are going to check and make sure that's not being used as an additional a mother-in-law suite, an apartment, a commercial business for repairing vehicles or lawnmowers or whatever. So to me, it's not a reasonable request when you get into the size of structure that they're asking for. So I really do feel like, not even counting the issues with gravel driveway and the drainage in this area was never prepared properly by Marvin Fisher. That's certainly not going to improve if there's another structure put in place. So I really feel like it needs to be more in line with what the code is now, and to just enforce the codes that we have for a reason. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, how about now? Looks like are those all the participants we have for the public input? Okay, so at this point, we will close the public input portion, and now it's a chance for board members to discuss amongst each other and to reach a decision. So I will, I guess I will start us off. I mean, it's pretty clear there's a lot of neighborly opposition to this. And I guess what I also see, it would add to that, is that I also didn't see a lot of neighbor support for it, right? Which when we have made exceptions, that was a central piece. It wasn't just the lack of opposition, it was actually people that were very adamantly in support of it. So that feels like an important layer to all of this. You know, and it's, yeah, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. And I guess you could nitpick about their motivations, but the fact is that people voiced their opinions pretty clearly in terms of written and spoken here tonight.
There was the original
There
responses from Claypool, though, that were.
Well, was there 4 of them?
4 or
Yeah, I
5.
think there were 4. Yeah. This one's a little bit different though, in that I second kind of what Meredith was saying, that there seemed to be a lot more against, and a lot of vociferous neighbors that have come across as being against it, which has not been the case in anything else that we've looked at.
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks to the community as a whole.
Well, I think it was helpful for me too to hear more of the history, because as far as the creation of the code was not until 1992.
Right. That explains a lot of things that you see
It
in the
does.
neighborhood.
It really does, and that
Yep.
it was even revisited back in 2000, right? Did we change it, and it was capped, right? So I think just because we see some of these, I mean, I suppose I think some may have had variances, but I think a large portion may have been built prior to this this code. So I think that was a helpful piece to have for this meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, this comes into an issue of size, and it's not a minor variance. It's almost, it's a very large variance, and 600 square feet was selected for a reason. And what past boards did, it's more about what we're going to do. This group of people and this particular board is really what's important. Certainly, we can consider past decisions, but I think it's more important what we do as a group during this current term that we serve.
Yeah, I would echo for me that the size is really an issue for me. The intent of these variances is for the purposes of, overcoming obstacles in the way, whether that's, utilizing an existing mount on an historic building that's only a foot off, or adding one extra sign in front of the school for the purposes of a new, institution there and advertising for it. This feels like a really major variance that doesn't come with any sort of a hardship associated with it, and more of just a desire to have a larger structure than what the code allows for. I really struggle with the size, especially without, some other justification for needing to have it maybe a little bit larger. That makes sense.
Yeah, I struggle with the size, and you're going to see it from any angle you go by there. There's nothing that really hides it or, screens it. You're going to see it.
Yeah, and I think the last case that we had a couple months ago, I think I mentioned it at that time that I'm not huge on doing something just because it was done in the past. He referenced a couple larger structures in the neighborhood as well. He was fortunate in that he got good neighborhood support. He had a good plan for keeping it concealed. We listen to the precedent, but we are not bound by it. And, I think my opinion would be more towards, I'm not really in favor of this.
I agree. And as I've done more reflecting, because, we've had some time to wrestle with this case, right? I went back and looked at, some of what some of the points you have to address when you apply for a variance, right? And one of those, I think the last one is the spirit and intent of the zoning code upheld, right? And sometimes we know that there are minor things, kind of like Aaron mentioned, like do you lower a sign by a foot, or do you allow somebody's fence to be slightly, closer to the edge because of an irregular shaped lot or something like that.
Or slightly higher to screen something, or,
Right. That there's usually a reason, but the spirit of the code is intact, right? And I guess if the spirit of the code is to sort of keep it as to maybe just store a couple extra cars, but to not allow for other purposes such as a business. If not now, I mean, it sounds like the Claypools have said that's not the intent, but certainly down the road it could be used for that. To me, that, you know, we have to take that into consideration. And yes, there may be past occasions where that has been done, but I think we have to look at not only this case, but, you know, going forward, you know, is this a code worth protecting?
Yes. I think too, and I raised this for some of the other buildings. It tends to be a magnet for storing things around it, on the outside of it. If you look around, there are a lot of these outdoor garages that have things piled up along the walls in front of it, and so forth. So that is my concern as well. The size, the not screened, kind of out there being seen, so that you can see that it is a larger structure, in reference to the houses in the neighborhood.
So it sounds like, I mean, and our main issue though here, you know, tonight is the size, right?
The
You know,
size.
you know, I know we got into a big discussion last time about the driveway and all that. You know, it's not really what we're after tonight, and that plan has been amended anyway. So I don't know if there's further discussion or if the board has any other questions among other board members. I mean, I'm just taking it.
I'd make a motion to disapprove the request.
I will second that.
All right. A motion was made by Mr. Costi to deny the variance request number 20-05, accessory structure at 1754 North Bellevue Drive. And this was seconded by Mr. Ogren. Mr. Costi.
Yes.
Mr. Ogren.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
And Chair Brinegar.
The motion passes to not approve the variance for VA 20-05. Okay. All right. So we would normally at this point in our other role look at any property maintenance issues. There's nothing on our agenda for tonight. You know, I don't know if there's any updates. I don't think we had planned anything. If you had any.
We had, but this has taken up so much of my time that I figured it was better to just wait until next month for that. So.
Okay. And are we set to meet next month? Do we have cases?
We will, and I'm already received information that there is possibly another request for a variance. So.
Okay.
So yeah, so probably a couple variances and maybe a couple
Property
of
review.
property review cases
And
to
I
be
will say,
heard.
Mr. Claypool and Mrs. Claypool, you can still always apply for the 600 square foot garage, and I'll work with you on that. We'll get that situated for you guys, okay? And then that's, you know, I'm sorry that it couldn't be what you wanted it to be. But because of the neighbors, I think that this was the best decision, so.
All right.
Can we look at the calendar very quickly for our next meeting? So, and Jessica, you need to help me on this. Are there going to be any cases being seen by the Village Review Board?
Yes.
Okay, so that will then, are they variance cases that would need to come?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's just a wall sign.
Okay.
So
Oh, I know which one then. So that doesn't, that only makes a difference if we have to have the 10 days to be able to publicly announce the meeting. So if we're looking at the third Tuesday would be the 15th. We also have the fourth Tuesday of the 22nd.
I'm good with the 15th.
We're good with the 15th?
Either one's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, either one.
Either.
Okay. So I think we have more people who want the 15th. So I'll tentatively set it for that. We'll check with Ms. Schroeder and make sure we have
Oh, right.
a quorum. Okay. Thank you.
You.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, is there, well, let's do
Oh,
this.
you got it.
Motion to
Yeah.
adjourn here.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Motion was made by Mr. Ogred to adjourn tonight's meeting. It was seconded by, was that Mr. Costi?
yes, yep.
Seconded by Mr. Costi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks all.